This is an informative video about how cells and its organelles perform their functions well in the body so as to prevent diseases and promote a healthy lifestyle. The condition that we will going to talk about is cancer.
So what is cancer? Cancer is a group of diseases involving abnormal cell growth with the potential to invade or spread to other parts of the body. These contrast with benign tumors which do not spread. Possible signs and symptoms include a lump, abnormal bleeding, prolonged cough, unexplained weight loss, and a change in bowel movements. While these symptoms may indicate cancer, they can also have other causes.
At the simplest level, cancer or cancer cells are cells that have lost the ability to follow the normal control that the body exerts on all cells. In our body, we have billions and billions of cells, and they have different functions. It's a very complicated process under incredibly phenomenal control. And if something goes wrong and that control is lost, and particular cells escape the normal control mechanisms, and they continue to grow, and they may spread, that's what we call cancer.
So how does cell prevent cancer?
Normal cells require signals, usually delivered by ligands, to stimulate their growth and to tell them when to stop growing. These signals or logins can be in the form of growth factors and inhibitors, extracellular matrix components, or cell adhesion molecules. These signals are transmitted into the cell through proteins found on the surface of cell photoreceptors. Each ligand binds to its own specific receptor. Receptors often consist of three domains: an extracellular ligand binding domain, a transmembrane domain, and an intracellular domain. Binding of a ligand to the extracellular domain activates the receptor tyrosine kinase, which activates other proteins by phosphorylation of adding a phosphate to the amino acid tyrosine on a protein inside the cell. When a ligand binds to the receptors, a signal goes to the intracellular domain, activating the associated enzyme and initiating a cascade of signals to the nucleus that tell the cell to grow and divide or to stop growing. Malignant cells generate many of their own growth signals, which allows them to divide with reduced external growth stimulation. Some cells are able to produce their own growth factors and stimulate their own growth. This is called autocrine stimulation. For example, glioblastomas express platelet-derived growth factor 2 PDGF, sarcomas express tumor growth factor alpha or TGF-alpha, as well as epidermal growth factor receptor or EGFR. In normal cells, the production of cell surface receptors is limited by cellular restraints on gene expression and protein translation. In tumor cells, however, mutations in the genes encoding for the receptors disrupts this finely tuned regulation, and too many copies of the gene are produced, a phenomenon called gene amplification. This in turn leads to excessive transcription and production of receptors. When a specific ligand binds to its receptor, this leads to changes in the receptor that transmit a specific signal into the cell. For example, the receptor tyrosine kinase is activated and initiates a signaling pathway specific to that receptor. This phenomenon is called signal transduction. Activation of a signal transduction pathway creates a complex chain of events in the cytoplasm or fluid intracellular space that eventually leads into the cell nucleus, where the transcription of genes regulating cell cycle progression are stimulated, resulting in cell proliferation. The end result of any growth factor receptor signal transduction pathway is tumor DNA replication and cell division. One tumor cell becomes 2. If mitosis continues, the tumor cells become 4. With exponential growth potential on the tissue level, this leads to increased tumor growth and increased tumor size. Many of the components of the signal transduction pathways are potential targets of anti-cancer therapies. Therapies can target the ligand's receptors, intracellular second messenger, and nuclear transcription factors responsible for tumor growth. Ligands can be neutralized before they bind to a receptor. So how does cell prevent cancer? The dying apoptotic cell attract macrophages of the immune system which devour and dispose of the dead lymphoma cells. The activated macrophages in turn secrete messenger molecules or cytokines, including the cytokine TGF-beta. It can block the growth of cancer cells in the early stage of a tumor disease.